My name is Alok Shukla. I'm 44 years old. I'm a social activist. I work to protect the environment, the land, the water, and the forests. From the 20th to the 23rd of December, the company cleared a section of the Hasdeo forest for the second phase of the Parsa East Kete Basin coal mine. A large police force was deployed to secure this operation. Villagers were detained and their villages turned into virtual garrisons. When I tried to reach the area from Raipur, I was illegally detained on the way by policemen in plain clothes. They stopped my car midway and said they would take me back home. But they ended up illegally detaining me for several hours. I wasn't taken home or presented before a court, nor allowed to contact anyone. My comrade who was traveling with me somehow managed to make a phone call, which led to questions from the media and even in the state assembly. I was released after that. But for 3 days, the security forces occupied all the villages near the mine in Hasdeo and detained key members of our movement. Officially 20,000 trees were cut down. Unofficially, the number is much higher. 23 coal blocks were initially identified in the Hasdeo forest region. All the coal block allocations were cancelled in 2014 by the Supreme Court, but 7 were reallocated afterwards to various state governments, which put up the right to mine them up for auction. 3 of these coal blocks have been allocated to the Rajasthan government: Parsa East Kete Basin, Parsa and Kete Extension. Of these, mining is ongoing in the Parsa East Kete Basin coal block. Adjacent to it is the Parsa coal block. The local village assemblies have opposed mining in the Parsa coal block repeatedly, from when the right to mine it was put up for auction and afterwards during the processes of land acquisition and award of government permissions. They asserted that this is an area protected by the 5th schedule of the Constitution and that they will not give up their land, water and forests for any price. In 2018, falsified village assembly resolutions were created at the behest of the company and pliant officials, claiming that the residents of 3 villages had consented to be displaced. The government granted forest clearance based on these falsified resolutions. The state, meanwhile, has proceeded with the land acquisition process without even the fig leaf of the villagers' consent. It has proceeded in violation of the Panchayat Extension to Scheduled Areas Act, under which land cannot be acquired in protected areas without the village assembly's consent. The state used the outdated Coal Bearing Areas Act of 1957 to acquire land without consent. The village assemblies in Hasdeo have been continuously opposing these processes. We marched for 300 kilometers from Hasdeo to Raipur and met the governor, who assured us that the falsified resolutions would be investigated. The chief minister assured us as well, but no investigation has started till today. On the contrary, the same falsified resolutions were relied upon to grant final clearance in April-May 2022. The residents of Hasdeo had started an indefinite protest even before that in March 2022, which has gone on for 800 days now. The main demand of the protest is that the falsified resolutions be set aside and permissions given on their basis cancelled and the land acquisition process stopped and the allocation of the Parsa coal block cancelled. We have asserted repeatedly that there should be no new coal mining and tree felling in the Hasdeo forest beyond the already operational first phase of Parsa East Kete Basin. We are not the only ones making this demand. Even the Chhattisgarh State Assembly had unanimously resolved in July 2022 to cancel all coal block allocations in Hasdeo. The government's own Wildlife Institute of India, after a detailed study of Hasdeo, had said in its report that allowing further coal mining in Hasdeo would lead to the destruction of the Hasdeo River and the Minimata Hasdeo Bango Reservoir, which irrigates 4 lakh hectares of farmland. Their report also said that further mining would exacerbate human-elephant conflict by destroying elephant habitat to an extent that would prove impossible to manage in the future. So it is not only the constitutionally empowered village assemblies of Hasdeo who oppose further mining, the Chhattisgarh Assembly has unanimously opposed it, the Wildlife Institute has warned against it. Despite this, the Parsa coal block is being pushed through to allow mining solely for the Adani Group's profit, which we are opposing. The Hasdeo forest covers approximately 1,836 square kilometers. In 2010, the entire area had been declared a no-go area for mining to protect the biodiversity of this dense forest, to protect forest resources, and to protect the traditions, lives and livelihoods of forest-dependent tribal communities who live here. Unfortunately, the Hasdeo forest sits on a massive coal seam in which 30 coal blocks have been identified. Among these, 7 had been allocated for mining already. In 2021, additional coal blocks were allocated for commercial auction. Our efforts had been ongoing to persuade the government to declare an elephant reserve in the Hasdeo forest. In 2007, the state had proposed the Lemru Elephant Reserve but never notified it under pressure from the coal mining lobby. The area of the proposed reserve then was only 450 square kilometers. When the Congress party came to power in the state and this issue was brought to its attention, then we demanded that the proposed Lemru Elephant Reserve should be extended to cover the entire Hasdeo forest apart from the operational mine, to protect the entire forest from mining. The Congress seemed to agree but dragged its feet and didn't issue the notification. We did our long march to the capital Raipur because of this, from the 2nd to the 12th of October 2021. During this march, we secured widespread support from all around the country and beyond, and also in the media. This built up enough pressure that the government notified the Lemru Elephant Reserve in 1,955 square kilometers even before we reached the capital. The area notified in the reserve included 17 coal blocks out of 23 that had been originally identified. If we add blocks that were identified later, the area included 25 or 26 coal blocks within the perimeter of the Lemru Elephant Reserve. These included 2 blocks that have already been allocated, Gidmuri Paturia and Madanpur South, where land acquisition and environment clearance proceedings were ongoing. The notification of the Lemru Elephant Reserve brought all these coal blocks within its perimeter and stopped mining proceeding in these 2 blocks, and also stopped further allocation of coal blocks that was planned to be auctioned off for commercial mining. After that, the coal ministry tried to auction off coal blocks that were immediately adjacent to the boundary of the notified Lemru Elephant Reserve. The village assemblies of the villages in those coal blocks wrote to the ministry and the state government opposing this. Their efforts bore fruit, and finally the ministry ended up denotifying about 40 coal blocks in the Hasdeo forest and surrounding areas. This was a big victory for the movement to save Hasdeo. A large area of the forest, all of which comes in the Korba district, was protected from mining. Unfortunately, 5 coal blocks remained unprotected, purely for the Adani Group to profit from. This is where our struggle is still ongoing. We demand that these coal blocks must also be brought into the Elephant Reserve area. 40 coal blocks have been saved by the Elephant Reserve. 5 are outside the reserve, which we are still fighting to save. The Congress government indeed respected our movement and responded by notifying the Lemru Elephant Reserve and protecting 40 coal blocks. It also seemed to agree with us when we repeatedly said that there should be no further mining in Hasdeo beyond the already operational Parsa East Kete Basin coal mine. After the resolution in the State Assembly, Chhattisgarh's Congress government had even written to the central government. However, it did not act on our demand that the state's forest department take back the final clearance under the Forest Rights Act for the Parsa coal block. This clearance, obtained based on the falsified village assembly resolution, was not withdrawn. Before the elections in the state last December, in July 2023, the Chhattisgarh government had said in an affidavit to the Supreme Court that the Parsa East Kete Basin coal mine is sufficient to fulfill Rajasthan's demand for coal for the next 20 years. It said that no additional coal blocks need to be mined. When the government accepted this and when there was an assembly resolution as well, then why not cancel the forest clearances that were granted in April-May 2022 to Parsa and to Parsa East Ketebasin second phase? Unfortunately, the Congress government never withdrew these clearances, which is leading to the people of Hasdeo suffering today. As soon as the government changed and the BJP came to power, it started clearing the forests on the strength of these clearances and permissions granted by the previous Congress government. Now we fear that the BJP government will make a move to clear forests for the Parsa coal block on behalf of Adani as soon as the ongoing general elections are completed. If the previous Congress government had withdrawn these clearances, then it would have been able to complete its stated aim of protecting the Hasdeo forest. Both the people of Hasdeo as well as the Congress party would have benefited if it had been able to do this. Be that as it may, we are happy that at least a part of the forest is now protected, and we will keep fighting to protect the part that isn't yet. I believe that the Modi government has paved the way for the Adani group to seek to monopolize all of the country's natural resources and buy up all of the country's state-owned companies. To help Adani's mining businesses, the government has weakened and diluted the various laws that protect people's rights, that take the side of workers, farmers, tribals, that ensure that no projects can proceed in their areas without their consent. It is certain that if the BJP returns to power in these elections, Adani will intensify its efforts to corner the country's natural resources. It will stop at nothing to destroy the Hasdeo forest. This is because of the complete support for Adani by the BJP-run central government. Or we can attribute it to Adani's control over the government, which the whole country can see. However, if the BJP-led Modi government loses power at the center, that will certainly be a shock for the Adani group, and that will certainly strengthen our movement to protect the Hasdeo forest. I don't know what the stance of the Congress would be in that scenario, but it would certainly strengthen the opportunity for the people of Hasdeo to make their case.
जिंदाबाद 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 लड़ेंगे